Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. Today is Monday, so it is book club day. I apologize, I had to do it a little bit earlier today, so I know some of you might not be able to join me live, so if you're catching the replay, hello, and good to be with you. I hope that you enjoyed this chapter. So we are reading The Yoga of Relationships, and this book was written by my teacher, Kamini Desai, her dad, Amrit Desai, Gurudev, who is another one of my spiritual teachers and an amazing man who really deeply understands yogic philosophy. And if you're thinking yoga like poses and that kind of thing, like get that out of your head. This is really about the study of the body-mind complex and understanding like who we are. And what he says is that when you have a relationship that you understand yourself and who you truly are, this is what will set up peace, harmony, love in all relationships. But it really starts with the relationship with your inner self and understanding who you truly are. And so this chapter was actually filled with a lot of philosophy that sort of sets the stage for understanding how this will play out in all of our different relationships. So if you are joining me, let me know that you got here. And I'm glad that you're here with me. And let's just dive right in. So chapter 1 was called The Urge to Merge. And he kind of sets it off by talking about how basically we are born in biological unity. And I'm going to use this as a little prop to help you understand these teachings, because sometimes they're a little esoteric. It's hard to really understand. And what he shared in this, honestly, I have a 6-week course all about it. So he did it in about 2 pages. But basically he says, look, we're born into biological unity, where when we're little kids, right? Infants, they scream when they need to scream. They don't mind if they're crying. They don't think, oh, you're not going to love me if I start crying, right? But if they're wet, they cry. A moment later, they might be giggling and happy. Then they're restless and they need to go to sleep, right? They are what you would say in alignment with the divine as it moves through them. And that is how we're all born. We're in what's called manifest unity. And we're just in a unity place. Now, we live in a world of polarity. And as we get older, we start to learn about this world of polarity. And he talks about how we develop a sense of I. And be around any toddler, right? It's all about mine, right? They're developing their sense of self. They're individuating, which is great. That needs to happen. We all need to become individuals and learn to stand on our own 2 feet. But this is where the ego starts to get developed. And this is where the ego, because we don't know better, kind of takes control and takes over. And the ego has a lot of demands. And if the demands are not met, it gets frustrated. It gets angry. It has resentment. Just look at a small child, right? That doesn't know how to handle these things. Their ego is just going. And it also sets out and sets the child up to go look into the external world to get things, to make it feel better. In yogic philosophy, they say we're born and we're connected to the divine. We feel whole. But then we go out into this world of polarity and we start to do things and we're taught that, oh, that's a good thing to do and that's bad, right? Do this, not this. And what happens is rather than realizing, hey, no matter if I do this or that, I'm loved, I'm part of this whole, we end up moving into duality where some things look better than others. And our mind, our ego is telling us, seek pleasure and avoid pain. Seek pleasure and avoid pain. It's what it's doing constantly. And so this word love gets co-opted, and this is why this starts to set up the whole thing we're talking about, which is the yoga of relationships. We start to look for love in the external world. We start to look for the things that bring us pleasure, and we start to avoid the things that give us pain, not realizing that, hey, it's all part of one whole, and that actually nothing out there, if you're seeking pleasure out there, it's not going to be complete, because the only way to be complete is to connect back in with your source nature. All right. So that's kind of the very short version of this sort of philosophy. Again, it doesn't matter if you fully understand it or not. It's just talking about basically setting up how the ego is never satisfied, because the ego is looking external for things in the external world to make it feel whole, to make it feel loved. All right. And unfortunately, it confuses us and it co-opts this word love, thinking that all these external things are what make us feel loved, right? And as we all know, right, external things disappoint, they go away, people die, people leave, stuff happens, and the love gets taken away. But the truth of the matter is you can find it internally. And so this is what he talks about. And he says, basically the I is needed to sustain the body. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a vastly misunderstood and overrated in terms of reliability. This ego mind that we have all, as children, learned to rely on and still rely on. Unfortunately, we don't understand the dynamic that actually we are the thing beyond the mind witnessing it. There is a soul in this body, and getting and moving into witness consciousness is the key. Into when we say connecting with your true self, this is the true self we're talking about. He says, has your mind ever lied to you? Don't you realize that this mind of ours, right? Think about how many times it has gotten you into fear. I love the acronym false evidence appearing real, right? Fear, the mind gets us worked up, telling us this, that, and the other thing. And like 90% of the time, nothing of it happens, right? The mind lies to us all the time because it's trying to keep us safe. Understand, it's trying to keep the physical body safe. That's why the mind is there. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's doing a job to keep the body mind safe and alive, not realizing that, hey, there's actually things it can expand into that would be okay. So you have to realize, he says, it's our choice to use the body and the mind as tools to explore both our humanity and our spiritual potential. All right? Understanding that you are more than the mind. As we grow into adults, the mind starts to use the body and itself as objects of manipulation for pleasure seeking and pain avoidance. And this is where a lot of us get into trouble because our mind is telling us seek pleasure, seek pleasure, seek pleasure. And now there's nothing wrong with pleasure, right? Pleasurable things are nourishing to our body and our mind. But the continuous push for pleasure seeking can malnourish. It's all about the why behind why you're doing something. Are you doing something so that you feel whole and complete? Or are you doing it just for the pleasure of doing it? There's nuance there. All right. So like I said, he's like crammed in a ton of philosophy into these first few pages. So I'm just like touching on it. In my mastery program, we go deep into understanding this stuff and it is life-changing. But I want to talk about how we kind of set this up and why he sort of teed this up to talk about relationships. And it all starts on page 4. He says, moving beyond the past. Often, we unwittingly revive painful past experiences, bringing them into the present moment. Until we are conscious about them, we continually invite suffering into our lives, placing blame on the one who hurt us, but in the past and in the present moment. Essentially, we are allowing that person to hurt us again and again and again in the form of another. We are trapped in pain that happened years ago. It is as sharp as if it happened yesterday. I want you to think about, last week I asked you to think about a relationship in your life that wasn't really working, right? That you wanted support with, you wanted help with, you needed to shift, change in some way. Bring that into your mind as we go into this example. All right. And so this, the way that this book is set up is like there's a little bit of discourse and then he brings the teaching alive in an example. And so hopefully this will all start to kind of make sense. But understanding that you're not your thoughts is really the key of what he was trying to teach. Understanding that the mind, the ego gets created to navigate this world, but you're actually the one in witness consciousness. If you can get there, you're the one behind it. And so this all starts with a woman who basically says, I decided a long time ago that I would never be dependent on anyone. Maybe this resonates with you. I have been diligent about not allowing another person to be in a position where they could have control over me. I did not know where this attitude came from. It was not until recently that I realized through an inner child experience that somehow my father had created that part of my personality. Okay, so she's blaming external. She says, my father created this. And Amrit Desai says, instead of saying my father created it, why not say it happened in reference to my father? Remember that nobody creates anything for you independently of you or in spite of you. Remember the equation we spoke about last week. External world plus your internal response is your reality. So the external world for this woman was her father, whatever he was doing. And she had an internal response to it that made her not want to trust anyone, not want to give control over to anybody ever again. And the woman says, right, she doesn't really, She doesn't understand what he's putting forward, and it can be hard to really accept this teaching. But she says, okay, I see. Then to say it correctly, I realized I'm the way I am because of the way my father hurt me, or because I was hurt by my father. And Yogi Desai says, no, because I myself created this pain in reference to the situation with my father would be more exact. So we are so used to, and as society, it's totally accepted that we say, oh, that person caused this. That person caused me pain. I am this way because of that. I'm a victim of my circumstance, victim of the situation. And Amrit Desai is saying, look, I'm not saying that this person didn't do something, that you were a victim in that moment, but you are continuing to be a victim because of how you are internally responding to it. You made an internal choice back then to respond to it in a certain way, and you're continuing to do it decades later. Even if there was an abuse then, listen to this, even if there was an abuse then, you are an adult now and have the power to release that hold. You get to decide the internal response. This is why people say, when you shift, the whole world shifts with you. Why? Because when you shift your internal response to an external stimulus, an external situation, all of a sudden your reality changes. You can't change the external world. And this is where most people get stuck, because this is what the ego thinks. This is why he kind of had that teaching at the beginning. The ego thinks, I have to go out into the external world and change the external world. And the truth of the matter is, no. Haven't you realized you can't change it? You can't change people. You can't change circumstances. Stuff is going to happen. The world has no allegiance to your plans. It's just going to do what it's going to do. But you have the choice to have a certain internal response to it. Okay, I was hit by a drunk driver. I sustained a brain injury. I think everyone would say I was a victim in that accident. I didn't do anything to deserve it. It happened. All right. My internal response for a long time, though, was to feel like a victim. Like, well, this isn't fair. It shouldn't have happened. It should be somewhere else. I don't deserve to have this injury. All right. But then I realized about a year into it, that attitude is not changing anything. Like, the reality is still here that I'm still injured and I still have issues. And so I switched how I was with it. And I just said, okay, this is just the way life is. There's new rules on the game. How can I find joy within this situation? And my internal response was, I'm going to find joy no matter what. I'm going to find happiness no matter what, moment by moment. And my whole reality changed. My situation didn't, the circumstances didn't, but my reality changed because of my internal response. Is this making sense? He's trying to shine this light for this woman in this situation. I want to shine it on you for the situation that you're in, to say, hang on a second. You might be blaming externally, but there's some internal response you're having. He says, how you reacted to your father was a continuation of your past karma. Your father may have treated your sister or brother in the same way, but all three of you came out differently. Let's say there was an alcoholic father with two sons. One never drinks a drop of alcohol. The other becomes an alcoholic. You ask them both, why are you the way they are? They'll both say, look at who my father was. Same external situation, alcoholic father. One says, I will never be like that, never drinks. The other says, well, of course I'm going to be like that. Look at my role model, and becomes the same. It's an internal response. Understand this. This is counter to so much out there in this world and what is taught. And people like to play the blame game and point externally, and I'm a victim of my circumstance. No, the reality is you get to choose how you are with your circumstances. It is radical ownership. All right? And it has to do with every relationship in your life. All right? Your internal karma is your conditioned way of reacting and interacting with life. And unfortunately, most people don't realize they've been conditioned by their mind, and that there is an alternate choice. There is an alternate way to show up and be with people. So this woman says, she's still blaming, right? This woman replies with saying, I was so open as a child, but he repeatedly mistreated me with cruel remarks, so I shut down. At some age, I determined that I was not going to let him hurt me ever again. And so Yogi Desai, what does he say? He points to the continued internal response, saying, just because you made that choice when you were little doesn't mean you need to continue to make that choice. And she says, in reaction to him, I eventually developed a shell around me. I decided I would not give anybody the power to hurt me like he did. All right. Her reply, right? She's further digging into her internal response. She's justifying it. She's saying, no. This person acted this way to me. They taught me this lesson. I've learned this lesson. I'm never going to allow anyone to do that to me ever again. All right. That, guys, this is... as you can see with this woman, she's having a hard time with it. It might be easy for us to see it in her situation. Like, no, honey, you can stop having that response. Like, you were safe now. You're an adult now. You can handle things now. But so many of us get stuck in these patterns because we don't realize there's another option, because when we were little, it got ingrained in us that that's the way to be. Okay? So Yogi Desai asks, how did you overcome this? And she says, well, I haven't. All right? And he says, okay, well, seeing it is progress. Just shining the light of awareness on it, understanding that, hey, I am participating in the dynamic of how I'm showing up in life and how I'm being in all of these relationships. I'm making an internal choice. Before, I didn't even realize I had a choice. It was unconscious. It was automatic. I was just doing what I was trained to do. Now I'm realizing, oh, I have a choice. He says, blame is saying, he did this to me. And guys, every time you say that, and you point externally, I love this. He says, the unspoken completion of that statement is, he did this to me, so I cannot do anything about it. And that's the key. When you are in a victim mentality, they did this to me, you can't do anything. Something external caused the situation. I have no power. I'm a victim. I can do nothing. And the truth of the matter is, in every single situation, you do have a choice, because it's an internal choice. We call it inner karma, right? This is your personal reaction to what happens. External world plus internal response equals your reality. And so what is your internal response going to be? If you say it's their fault, then your internal response, it's their fault. There's nothing I can do. Or you could say, okay, this happened, but what can I do now, given that this happened? It is a small nuance, but it is a massive shift. Okay? And then he goes on to say, your father, right, was not enlightened. How many of us had enlightened parents? Truly, how many of us had enlightened parents? Like, none of us. Okay? Our parents were human. They had faults. They had their own internal karma. They had their own reasons for being the way that they were. Maybe it was because that's how they were treated by their parents. And so it got passed on, and it got passed on, and it got passed on. Maybe you're doing it to your kids. Are you enlightened? No, we all do these things. We don't realize that just us being a certain way creates a dynamic for somebody else. And he says, listen, you need to take radical ownership of your internal reaction. He says, do not believe that it was only because your father was wrong that you made a decision to resist the world. You have not stopped making the decision. It just goes on. You're continuing to resist the world, even though maybe her father has passed away, right? It's amazing what we continue to cling on to internally, even when the external things have shifted so much. If you want true liberation, true freedom, really truly able to have deep connected relationships, it all has to do with your internal choices, how you're showing up, how you're reacting to things. He says, we do not want to take responsibility often, right? It's way easier to just blame and say, oh, it's their fault. I'm this way because my parents did this. All right. If we blame our parents, then we do not have to do the work of healing ourselves. That's the truth of the matter. If we blame out there, we never have to look internally, and we never have to do the inner work. And so many people spend a lifetime doing that, not realizing they're creating the same patterns, the same problems again and again and again and again and again. And that they have responsibility with it. They're playing a role. They're a part of the equation. Okay? He says, we have assigned it to the other people. Many psychology books firmly lay the blame on parents. Everybody who wants to blame their parents buys those books, buys into that idea. It's a good investment unless you want to evolve. I read that sentence and I started laughing out loud, because the reality is, there's whole professions set up to figure out, well, what happened to you in your childhood that made you the way that you are now? And, well, it's their fault, right? Well, you can't change your childhood. You can't change your parents. Like, how is that empowering? It's not. He says, it's fine if you want to play the blame game and put the blame out there and be angry and bitter and resentful. That's not going to get us anywhere. If we actually want to evolve, if we actually want inner peace, if we actually want to resolve these things, we have to look internally and say, well, how was my way of being? How did I interact to that? What did it cause me to do? And how am I still doing that in ways that aren't serving me? Okay? So he says the work of observing of how our minds interpret a situation is really what matters. So we have to look. We have this lens of our past. So this woman's dad mistreated her. So now when she looks out into the world, she's looking through the lens of, it's like she has a pair of sunglasses on. Like there's a veil over her. There's a filter. So everything that happens, she sees it through the lens of everyone's trying to mistreat me. Nobody can be trusted. All right. And so it's causing her to interact with everybody where I can't trust you. You know, you're trying to control me. And so she's coming to the situation, even though it's a fresh new situation, she's coming to it with that internal lens to it, that filter. And it's causing problem after problem after problem after problem after problem. And to her, it doesn't look like there's an issue. She doesn't realize she's wearing the lens. She doesn't realize she has that filter on. But the filter's from in childhood. She put it there because of how she interpreted things with the dad. Is this making sense? This is deep stuff. I know. But I promise you, if you understand these concepts, it sets you free in your relationships. It really does. He says, as soon as we become conscious enough to see how we replay a life event, we are also ready to drop it. So the question is, well, I can't change my childhood. I can't change this. I can't change that. I know. But the reality is you can see how you're bringing that baggage forward into every single interaction. You can look at the sunglasses and go, these aren't serving me anymore. Maybe I should allow myself to trust people. Maybe I should allow myself to be more open and receptive and patient in every moment and just let people show me who they are, right? Courtney says, so true. And people don't realize every moment we have choices we can make to change and evolve from our cycles. Exactly. And what I would even say is that our cycles, our ways of being, we're recreating the same issues, right? I mean, my teacher always laughs. He's like, a guy could get married 4 times and still be stunned that he keeps marrying the same woman. And it's like, no, the women are different. You are the same. You're the common denominator, right? You keep having a problem with every single boss you have. Guess what? It's not the bosses. It's you. You've got some sort of filter that you're looking through that is causing you to bring about the same situation again and again and again. And it looks like it's the external world. It does. I get it. It looks like it's coming from out there, but it's not. It's not. You are part of the equation. You're having an internal response to what's happening that's making the same reality again and again and again. And it's unconscious and it's automatic and you don't even realize you're wearing the filter. But the moment that you pause and you go, why am I reacting this way? Is this a beneficial reaction? What is this really stemmed in? Oh, wow, I didn't know I could do that over there. All right, it's going to allow for you to gain this insight. And he says, once you can see and you're conscious enough to realize that you're bringing these past life events into the present moment, once you're conscious of that, now you're ready to drop it. It's almost like you just shine the light of awareness on it and it starts to resolve itself. All right, you just drop it. You just go, well, I'm not going to be that way anymore. And every time it pops up, you let it go. It pops up, you let it go. All right, that's what you do. The yogic view, also, because some people might say, well, why, this woman, she has siblings, they're not this way with the father. Why was she this way? She was just a kid. Well, the yogic perspective, take it or leave it, but the yogic perspective is that your soul, there's an essence to you that's currently, merged with this body and mind. But that essence, when you die, that's the thing that leaves, right? The body stays here, but your soul leaves. And that this essence of you moves lifetime to lifetime. And it's needing to learn certain lessons. And there's certain karma, internal responses that have been baked into it that now it's being put in situations so that it can find those internal responses and shift them. Release them, transmute them, change them. This is like inner alchemy. Okay, so the yogic perspective would be, well, she chose to have this father so that the father would create these circumstances that would make her react this way so that eventually she could see reacting this way doesn't help. You might need to re-listen to that statement, okay? But that's what it's all about. That's the yogic perspective. And I don't care if you believe it or not about, reincarnation and multiple lives. That part doesn't matter. What if you chose the circumstances? Your higher self chose the circumstances you're in because the circumstances are meant to create an amount of pressure on you until you pop. it looks like the external world is doing this to you, but really it's created transformational pressure. It's saying, hey, we want to show you that something inside of you that you're holding on to isn't actually working, and you need to release it. It's big stuff we're talking about. Always. I love it. Okay. So, he says a mind that is afflicted and charged with emotions analyzes and only justifies. And when your mind, this is why changing relationships can be so hard, because relationships create that transformational pressure. They create the dynamics, right? Our kids, our loved ones. And it's like a pressure cooker. And it is so easy to blame out there. But really, if you look at it and say, well, they're creating the circumstances for me to figure out what I need to resolve in me. Okay. And once you realize that you're part of the equation, don't go blaming yourself. That just creates more mental chatter that's not helpful. All right. Don't go blaming yourself. Release all of that. You just want to be clear. You want to be in the witness consciousness space, neutral, watching the reactions come in, not engaging with them, right? Not suppressing them, just not engaging with them. It's like the reaction comes in and you just let it be there, but you don't engage, and it will burn itself up. It just will. It's like a kid having a tantrum. You don't try to tell it to stop having a tantrum, and you certainly don't give it what it wants. You don't merge with it. You just let it burn. You let the tantrum run its course, right? Your mind is going to have a lot of tantrums. Let it run its course, all right? You do not need to solve this. You don't have to go back to your childhood and solve it. You just need to solve it now in the present moment. You need to dissolve it. How do you dissolve it? You just don't feed it. You don't repress it. You don't feed it. You just let it burn. Is this making sense? All right. Powerful, really powerful stuff. So the kind of the remainder of this chapter, he was talking about, again, how, the difference between humans and animals. Like, we watch animals be so in tune with nature. They're in this space, right? Like infants are. They don't have a mind that pulls them out into polarity, right? Give the example, like a lion doesn't go out and find the best den so it can have the prettiest lioness and compare it to all its neighbors. No, it just finds a place that works and mates. It's just part of the whole. It's totally in alignment. We as humans, fortunately or unfortunately, right, have a mind that pulls us into this. We recognize the polarity of things. We start to have preferences, thinking that, our preferences are going to make us feel better, when really, they don't. They just pull us further and further into duality, further and further apart. And what we want is to embrace the whole. We want to embrace the ups and the downs. We want to just be able to be with everything. That's the internal response we're needing to have. And that's then what changes it all. When you realize, I'm whole and complete no matter what. I don't actually need anything in this external world. I don't need this partner to do this certain thing. I don't need my parents to do a certain thing. I don't need anything because I'm whole and complete. And when you show up in that way, it liberates everything. Okay? But we have this internal self-image. We have the ego, the thing that the animals don't have. And he says, the self-destructive ego mind uses its negative influence to draw the body away from its natural protection. Our mind draws us away from our intuition, from what the body knows. And the function of our animal instincts is suppressed. It is actually sacrificed in the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Our mind draws us out and away from something that is more powerful than anything else. Your inner wisdom, your intuition, your body. He says the self-image sets up an internal frame of reference telling us who we are, how far we've traveled, and where we are going. It decides what is right. It decides what is wrong. It decides what to fear. It decides what we love, what we should ignore, and what we should cling to. Whatever drive is dominant is our personality at any given time. It's determined by our perceptions, our choices, our logic, our reasoning, even memory, which is distorted at best. It cannot be trusted, yet we blindly follow it every step of the way. How true is that? That we blindly follow our mind every step of the way. We believe that we can trust it. We don't realize it's operating on this binary, seek pleasure, avoid pain, seek pleasure, avoid pain, and it's trying to just keep the body alive. We don't realize that there is a third choice. Rather than just seek pleasure, avoid pain, there's the choice to step back and be in witness consciousness. When you can be in witness consciousness, you have a much deeper perspective. You can see the reactions that come through. You can choose to engage in them or not. All right. We must move to witness consciousness. And then if we don't, right, the self-image is a hindrance to spiritual growth. All right, if we choose to serve the self-image, if we choose to serve our ego, it hinders our spiritual growth. It hinders this connection. All right, and it is. What did he say? I think he said it's like on the karmic ledger. It's a debit against our spiritual growth. Every time we move into the ego and we serve the self-image, we are taking away from the spiritual growth that we can have. All right. And he says, growing up doesn't always mean emotional maturity. It depends on evolving our conscious self-awareness, learning who we really are versus who we think we are. And that's the whole point of this book. It's the relationship with yourself, who you think you are, your thoughts, your mind, and who you really are. And when you get that relationship right, it will change every relationship in your world. But it requires inner work, which is probably not the answer most want, because most want a simple, fast fix. All right. But we have a persona. We have a mask, right? You have the mask that you play, and it's who we believe we are. Well, I'm the mother. I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the daughter. I'm the best friend. I'm the helper. I'm the healer. I'm the whatever. Our mask changes role by role, interaction by interaction with relationships. And he says, ultimately, who can love a false person? Because you're wearing a mask. You're not even wearing who you truly are. So you can never find love and deep connection with someone else because you're not even connected with you. So how can they connect with you? All right. He says, this is why ultimately who can love a false person, right? These personas, these masks that we all wear. This is why relationships fail. But without the understanding of how we got ourselves into this predicament in the first place, we are left wondering what went wrong, who did what to whom, and who is at fault. Until we learn from these failures, we are doomed to have strained relationships in our original families, our extended families, in our love life, and in our career. They're strained because you're not connected to your true self. When you connect there, everything changes. All right? So we are going to read chapter 2 and 3 for this coming week. They're shorter chapters, so we will breeze through them. I hope this made sense. There's a lot of yogic philosophy baked into here that might not make sense, but the truth of the matter is it's about getting beyond the reaction so you can see and gain perspective as to why you are the way that you are. And that sets up the stage for everything. So I'll see you next week, and thanks for joining.